So to kick off my Let's Build with Tailwind series, I'm going to start with something we're all probably familiar with, and that's going to be a tweet. And maybe you've heard of Elon Musk too, so I figured someone we all know or have heard of in the past that we could kind of mimic in the terms of the UI and the tweet itself. So this is his actual profile page. This is the tweet feed. If you were to click through to the tweet, it would appear differently, but I want to actually tackle this UI at this point. So we'll actually be stealing some SVGs from Twitter, and that's not really hard to do. You just need to copy some source code. But other than that, some of these things are no-brainer. With Tailwind, here's kind of the final piece I ended up with, and I want to try to emulate it. It looks like a lot of code and jarbled code here, but what we're going to do is essentially repeat this and bring it back to life in Tailwind. And I'm going to use the CDN version to start. Adding that to your stack is as simple as going to Tailwind CSS, and I'll actually go to the beta version. So we'll say next.tailwind CSS. And in there you can either, if you want to install it locally, you certainly could, but I'm going to use the CDN version this time being. And you can go to that page, copy this URL, come back to CodePen if you want, or whatever editor you're using, and update the settings here in the gear, and go to CSS, and then just add it to this bit here. So with that added, we get access to all these utility classes that Tailwind provides. So by no way should you probably use the CDN production environment, but this is a great way to at least play with the framework and learn it and get your hands dirty. So as you can see, the UI over here is pretty similar to what we saw on Twitter, and that's kind of by design. There's a few things that are a little off, like maybe the border radius here is a little light compared to the one on Twitter. They use pretty big border radiuses. But all in all, I think it's pretty close, which is pretty fun. So let's kick things off, and I'll be referencing this pen simply for the SVGs. If you want to find the SVGs on Twitter, you can just control click if you're on a Mac, inspect the element, go to that SVG, and you'll see it highlighted there, and then right click there, copy outer HTML. That should give you the SVG to work with. It's going to come with some garbled looking classes. You can just delete those, and then we'll come back and add our own as we progress. So apologies for not doing this completely from scratch, but I kind of wanted to make it a little seamless so you guys don't have to sit here and see me just copying and pasting code in some regards. So I'm going to make a new pen to start, and I'm going to say, we'll call this Tailwind CSS. And we'll start with the tweet. So as this series progresses, components and or code and stuff we use will probably get more complex. I just wanted to start with some initial component to mimic in a sense of our layout here. So I'm going to set some basic max width properties to get started, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so let's see. First, we want to make sure there's an article element that I'm mimicking on the actual tweet. If we look at the source code again, kind of bubble up the pipeline, you'll see there is one there, which is great. And that's going to have a border on the top, as you can see, border on the bottom, and a slight hover effect. So we can start there. So say class, border top, we'll say border top, border bottom, border gray, let's say light, or no, 400. And before we just start styling, I should probably get the content in view. So let me first get the image of his avatar. So grab that. I just want the URL at this point. And I'll just get the image. Bring that in. Okay, so already I can probably just kind of give that some styles. So we'll say border, or it should be rounded. And the more you use Tailwind, the more you're going to just remember these class names. So don't expect to know them by default, but definitely reference here. If you press the /, you can search for anything you need. There's a lot under the hood, and it's super useful. So this will be rounded full, rounded full. Oh, we need to actually import the CDN still. So that was my bad. Let's do that. I'll go grab that URL like I was talking about. CSS, add that there, save it. And there we go. We get some styles with that. Great. We want to make the width about like 48 pixels. So I think like 16, height 16. That might be too big. Let's double check what size that is. 64, I think that's decent. Maybe we'll go down a bit. We have 12 in our arsenal, so I'll do that. Maybe some margin on the right. Okay, so the main source of truth here is the article element. So we want to add some padding on that. So padding will maybe be, I think, 2 all around. Then we want, you can do hover effects in Tailwind, and those start with this prefix and then the colon. We could say BG gray 100 maybe. So when you hover, you get a real slight, I don't even know if you guys can see that, real slight hover effect. Yeah, that's decent. Okay, so we want to probably push this off the top a bit. So margin Y, like 2. Maybe a little more. Okay, cool. What else do we have in the tweet? And it should be his username, the SVG for the verified bit. So this is going to be flex. So that, as you can see on, there's like a column here and then a column here. So I think what I'm going to do is start with that kind of scaffold. So we'll probably say like div class flex and flex wrap, justify start, perhaps start there. So that will make sure that any child element here will flex properly. So anything in here should be just the content. So if we get that, it should fixate over to the right, which is what we want there. Great. Just like that, Flexbox works, and it's like pure magic. I love it. I'm gonna move this over a tad. Okay, so we have this empty div. We have the containing Flexbox div. I'm gonna indent this a little bit. So in here will be the main content. So let's get the username, will be Elon Musk. Maybe that'll be a link because it's got a link element. We'll just start dirty for now and style later. We have his verified icon. Let me grab that actually from my, well, I'll just do it. I'll show you guys the process. So I'll inspect element on it. Come down and get the actual SVG element, copy outer HTML, come back in, paste that in, and we have this huge icon, which is great, but you get these garbled classes, which I think is just dynamic stuff that gets generated. We'll want to actually append this, and this is the only use case where I use the custom fill. Otherwise, I'd use something in Tailwind for this, but I wanted it to look like the blue on Twitter, so I'm going to use that here just to give it that blue. You can do that with SVGs, which is nice, but we'll actually tweak this down pretty small. Maybe width 4, height 4. That'll work. And this container will probably be flexed as well, so we want everything to appear inline, just like that, yeah. And then we'll say item center to center everything in that container. Great. And this will probably be items start. Yeah, there we go. Or is it centered up here? It's like started, so there we go. Okay, so this will have its own, maybe a span tag around it so we can nudge it a bit. And I'm going to give it a little bit of margin. So like margin, we could do left or right. So I'm going to do right on everything. So right will be margin right, like 2. There we go. And this will probably do the same, like, oops, we need to get rid of that closing tag. What is CodePen doing? There we go. Definitely don't need the word span there. Oh my gosh, that's a bug. With that in place, what else do we have? We have his handle, so Elon Musk at Elon Musk. So this will probably have, we could probably just do this whole container to have a text color, but maybe I'll just do it on each element for now. Text gray through like 400. That's too much. 600. Here we go. Let's go ahead and style this to be font bold. And I believe on hover there is a underline. Yeah. And a cursor. So hover, let's say underline. There we go. Looking good. All right. This might need to be maybe text small. Or is that too small? No, I like it. Okay, so this will end up being, next bit will be a, I think just a symbol. I'm actually going to copy it, because I'm not quite sure how to keystroke that in. Let's go into there. Just get that. Okay, we'll paste that in. It's probably going to have the same classes as above. Cool. Okay, so this probably needs some margin. So like margin right. And then finally we have the date. So we'll say class. So you probably wouldn't repeat this. Maybe you could do another containing div that has all this stuff, but I'm just doing it to show that you could modify anything under the sun because we don't want margin on this particular one. So we'll say April 7th. Looking good. Okay, and then we have this icon over here. Maybe I'll add that now. And in fact, we do need a containing div for that to work. So we've got this flex box bit going on. Within this, I'll probably want to do another div and contain everything else on the left bit. And you'll see why I want to push this to be flex 1, which kind of just expands that container all the way over. This needs flex as well. There we go. And then we'll say item center. Awesome. So then we need to get that other bit on the right, that arrow icon. Let's do another div over here for now. And I think it's a link in the end, so we'll start there. And an SVG too. So let's go grab that one. Inspect and copy outer HTML. It might be different in whatever browser you're using. If it's Chrome, it's pretty much the same. Okay, so this will have maybe fill current. And we need a width on it to get it to work. So 4, we'll start with 4. I think it's gonna be too big though. Yeah, maybe 3 or 2. Width and height. Cool. So then we can do, looks like the flex 1 isn't quite working. So this is close. I need this arrow all the way over though. So I'm trying to figure out why that is not happening. We've got flex 1 there. That should be all the way over. Possibly need to do flex on the containing element. And that. Okay, flex item center. Flex 1. Does that throw it off? There we go. Okay, so the outer container needed flex to get these to be the width we were after. It's kind of confusing. Style this to be, we're going to give this a class of just basic text gray 600, so everything inside is going to end up being that gray. You see our SVG is doing that since we use fill current. And the class itself of this, I want it to be kind of a bubble. So we'll say, I'm going to do it the flex way. So we'll actually set a width of this. And this is probably wrong. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do tiny width, way tinier than that. So like 6 or something. And that will have a background of transparent. And then hover will have BG blue like 100. We want it to be rounded full, so it's a circle. And then we got that. So we want, with the flex, we need to say item center and justify center to center it. There we go. And the blue's not quite dark enough, I don't think. So I'm gonna go 200. You'll notice the SVG isn't updating though. So we need to kind of think of that. So we actually need to say hover text blue, let's say 600, because fill current kind of adapts to its parent. So we got that now. Pretty sweet. Awesome. Okay, so that's the gist of the top bar, I think. Next, we need the actual tweet, which will probably be the easiest part, our basic flex container. I think below that is where we're going to start with the rest of it. So like here, let's see how this looks. I think it's called Star Trooper, or what was it? Star Hopper. So that needs to come down maybe in this. No. So we'll say a div class flex1. Ooh, why is it all flexing? I think I need to write in the main container, we just have flex. We need flex wrap so it breaks down. And this should be here, and I think possibly there. And if we do a div, I'm trying to break the flex bit, so this should be like maybe width full. Okay, there's that. We don't have the main flex around. I need this to be shifted over. So if we look, we need a div that's containing just the image element, which is a start. In fact, the image should probably be outside of the scope of this box here. And we'll have another div over there. This will be the main containing div, so we actually need to be inside that, I think. There we go, yeah. So if that's not confusing as all hell, I'm sorry. So there's a lot going on here, but I invite you to inspect this pen when you're good and ready. There's a lot of classes to attend to, but I think it's all in all way quicker to prototype something, as you can see, than it is to write custom styles for each thing you add. So let's do a little bit of margin. And then below this, I don't even know if I need this. I do. Okay, we'll do that. And inside there will be an image. I do want a div around this because I'm going to do an object fit kind of scenario. So yeah, so our main div is going to have a class rounded large. The source will actually be the source of the tweet. So let's grab that image. Tweet. Come back, paste that in. It's going to be huge. Yep. So what I want to do is give it a height. And Tailwind goes as high as 64. So you can extend that if you want, but I don't want to do that. So I'm going to say object cover. You need a defined width on this to work. There we go. Looks like this isn't doing the trick I want. So rounded, large. There we go. And then a slight border. So we could just actually add just border and it should add a default. That's taking shape pretty fast. Very cool. So it's not exactly like the tweet. As you can see, the border radius is a little off, but you can tweak that in Tailwind if you want with the configuration. You couldn't do it with CDN. You would have to actually download Tailwind and configure it, but it's just something you could do to extend it. And finally, we're going to have this row of all the icons that we'll add below. So let's do that. So we'll just have like a div. This is going to be flexbox based. So we'll just start with some defaults. Flex. I won't even wrap it actually. So say item center and maybe justify start to begin. And then in each, we're going to have icons. Okay, so within each of these, we're going to have a div that's going to be a class of like text gray 500. And then we need the SVGs for each. So I'll go grab that because I want to imitate that hover effect too. That's a little bubble. I'm going to copy this, paste that in, get rid of these classes. It's going to look like nothing at first, but if we say width 6, height 6, let's see if that size is decent. That's not bad. Okay. So text gray, we need fill current to kind of have that text color. Should update. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add some padding here so that whole row's got some breathing room. And at the moment, there's no hover effect, nothing going on there. We do need like a link around this though. So I'll add that. Empty link class. So we get the pointer events, and then within the link, I might do a separate span because the span itself won't need to link, but the icon will. So I'm going to do span, and what are the stats? 1.5K. And that's going to be like that. So what needs to happen is each link needs to be flexed. And that'll should shift. Oh, actually, I need a div because they're not contained. So I need another div around this. Actually, I'll do it here. So flex. There we go. Now the stat needs to have some margin, or the icon does. I think I'll do the margin left or right. Now I'll do the stat because the icon needs to be circular. So margin left 2. It's probably too much. No, it's decent. So then officially on hover, we want to have, let's just set this up. So we need width of like maybe 6 or 10, height of 10. That's probably way too much. So 8. And then hover, we want to have like a BG of blue 200. That's going to be a just basic starting point. So that gets us that. This needs to be toned down for sure. Okay. I might even go further down the line here of 6. See how this looks. And we'll say radius or rounded. Full. So we get that. The icon's still a little too, maybe we'll decrease the size of that. Is that too crazy? Yeah, it's a little small. So that works, but it's a little small. So I might do, I don't know if 7's a property we get. No, I don't think so. I'm gonna do 8 here. Okay, that's more like it. We'll figure this out. So we'll say flex on this container, and then item center to center it. Justify center to center even more. That gets us close. So there we get that little bubble. Let's see, hover on this. We actually need the text to be blue 500. Awesome. And then the same is true for like when this div is hovered. I want the span to be blue too, so I can even do that. So hover span, let's see, text blue 500. So we'll get the whole div to kind of do that. But then when this is hovered, I think that's the interaction that makes sense here. Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing. Awesome. So it's pretty close. Let's make this flex item center. Align those a bit. Should shift down. Very cool. So that's a decent start. So now we just kind of got to go down the line and dupe this for the other icons and the colors, because they do use different colors. So I'll actually duplicate these. I'll start like this and then figure out what to do from there. So margin right like 6. Yeah, that's decent. And the second one, let's get the icon for that, the retweet. You notice the green color. That's important. Copy the outer HTML, come back in, paste that in. We'll have to adjust the classes. We'll kind of maintain that width and height. So width 5, height 5, fill current. I'm just going to change everything that's blue now to green. Command clicking here. And we'll need to update the stat too, so it's 6.7K. Oop, 6.7. Now it's green. Awesome. And you notice on the tweet, everything's got the cursor pointer when you're hovering when I'm on the page. So I need to actually add that on the whole article, I think. So I'll go do that real quick. So cursor pointer. Very cool. All right, so this will have that margin right as well, margin right 6. We might tweak that. And we need to just copy this block. Clean it up a bit. So this will be the likes or hearts, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to get that icon. Paste that in again with the classes. With 5, height 5, fill current. I'm going to replace everything green now with red. That. Awesome. This will have, what was it, 99.9K. There we go. The text size is kind of big. Maybe overall I'll say text small. You can kind of do that in that parent div. Yeah, that's more like it. I don't know. It's kind of big over here too, though. So maybe I'll leave it. Those do look like they're further apart over here too. So maybe I'll do margin right 8. So this last one will probably have a little less. If you notice this icon's, it's got some margin on the right, but it's not quite the same distance in between here if you look real close. But I still want to steal this icon and use it. So we'll do that. And kind of the, I probably should have done this first. Let's grab this, copy this over, paste this in, grab this SVG, cut. We'll get rid of the stat. And I'll paste this bit in. We'll match the classes we've been doing. So width 5, height 5, fill current. And then again, everything that's red will be blue. And then that should be good. Very awesome. Let me tidy this. Cool thing of CodePen. Awesome. So there you have it, guys. That's basically a tweet with Tailwind. Now there could be some enhancements here like transitioning and stuff. Those actually don't come with Tailwind at this point. I've found myself adding those on my own though. So you might add some of your own utility classes for transition events. So the hover states are a little more gradual as opposed to so abrupt like this, but it's not a huge deal breaker for me either. Kind of like the quick reactiveness. But hopefully that helped you get a taste of Tailwind. I realize when you look at this, it looks like an absolute mess, but I've found my productivity with CSS alone using Tailwind has been skyrocketed using this framework. It can get a little hairy and repetitive at times, but that's where you, at that point, extract things into components, which we could do coming up. And that basically means taking some of these classes, combining them in another class, and utilizing that approach. So we'll tackle future stuff like that coming up. That'll probably be something where I do it not on CodePen, because we'll need a little more control than having a CDN in our arsenal. So hope you enjoyed this. If you want more of this, let me know with a like or a share or something, and just let me know with a comment. Appreciate any feedback you have. And until next time, peace.